Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Steve Kenyon Podcast. I'm Steve Kenyon. Special edition of the Steve Kenyon Podcast. Getting ready to head to Bishop, California for the Mule Days celebration. 55 years they've been at it at Mule Days, and Jennifer Roeser will join us in just a moment. She's one of the organizers of Bishop Mule Days from Bishop, California. I encourage you to go find this video on our YouTube channel and just look at the surroundings, the place where she is at, up in the middle of the Eastern Sierras. Jennifer's a packer, and that's how Mule Days got started, with the packing folks that take the pack strings up into those big, beautiful mountains, and it's just a great, great time. It's a lot of fun. I'm coming to you today from Miles City, Montana, and we'll be headed to Mule Days next week. The world-famous bucking horse sale is going on right now in Miles City, so got a lot of traveling on the agenda the next few days, and looking forward to all of it. Today's show is sponsored by Wrangler. Long live Cowboys. Thank you to Resist All. We live it every day. To the Justin Butte Company. Standard West since 1879. To Equinity. It's all about the horse. TeamEquinity.com. To Cubit Hay Company. Premium cubes for premium animals. CubitHay.com. To M2 Ranch Jerky. Find them online. M2-Ranch.com. To Classic Equine and Classic Rope. To the Gooding Pro Rodeo. And, of course, to Next Gen Rodeo. And to the Cowboy Channel. We'll get to it with a little story about the Bishop Mule Days and Jennifer Roeser coming up. Thank you for joining us. This is the Steve Kenyon Podcast. M2 Ranch Jerky is true traditional cowboy jerky. Here's what rodeo cowboys are saying. Bull rider TJ Gray says M2 Ranch traditional cowboy jerky is my favorite road snack traveling to rodeos. Saddle bronc rider Mitch Pollock says if you're looking for a traditional, great-tasting jerky, M2 Ranch Jerky has you covered. Bull rider Justin Houston says, thank you, M2 Ranch Jerky, for keeping me going down the road and keeping my hunger satisfied. Order today. Find a location near you. M2 Ranch Jerky. Online at M2-Ranch.com. The Cubit Hay Company is a family-owned business based out of southeastern Idaho. Premium cubes for premium animals. We asked J.C. Neville of Cubit Hay to tell us about his product line.
We have what we refer to as our regular size cubes, and that's about the cubes that you see mostly. Then there's also a mini cube that we offer. And then we also have the pellets, and we do alfalfa. There's also grass mixes available.
Premium alfalfa cubes and pellets. Cubit Hay Company. CubitHay.com. This little run that I'm on right now is one of my favorite couple of weeks of my life. I'm currently in Miles City, Montana, where the world-famous bucking horse sale is going on. Yes, that's a hotel room you see behind me. And then starting next week on Tuesday, after an airplane flight on Monday, headed to Bishop, California. The young lady that you see joining me is Jennifer Roeser. And Jennifer is one of the key people behind Mule Days in Bishop, California. One of the most unique events I get to go to every year. Jennifer, it looks like it's absolutely gorgeous with the Sierra Mountains in the background there.
How can you beat it, right, Steve?
Yeah. You really do live in one of the prettiest places God ever created, I think, don't you?
I have to agree.
Yeah. So, little background. Jennifer has been involved in Mule Days for a very, very long time. She and her husband, Lee, for a long time owned a pack station that would take if you haven't ever gone on a pack trip, you need to do it just once. They'll take you with a string of mules up into those big, beautiful mountains and give you the whole treatment. You're not in the packing business anymore, right, Jennifer? But you're still very involved, or are you? I shouldn't say that. Tell me what you're up to these days.
Well, I did the best of both worlds. I kept most of the mules, sold the pack station, which for both Lee and I had been going on 3 generations of the packing business. We sold that to a wonderful young couple that you see at Mule Days often, and kept the mules. And now I work for a lot of the other packers. I do some contract packing here and there, and then I have a few other side jobs.
Got it. The packing industry really is the root of Mule Days. I mean, this is the way I always heard the story. Tell me if I'm getting this wrong. Is back about 1969 or so, 1970-ish, there was a really, 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 really late snow up in those big, beautiful mountains. And y'all needed something to do to get your mules out and get their legs stretched and get them. And so you started a one-day mule show, and it has blossomed into a full week now. Am I getting that story right?
You got it exactly right, Steve. Yeah, it was 1969 was a record snow year of all time in the High Sierra and the high country. And a lot of the packers just couldn't get in the mountains at that time in this eastern part of California. And I just have to say a bit about that. We are a very remote rural area of California. A lot of people don't realize parts of California like this exist. And we are a natural resource-based economy. It's tourism and agriculture.
Yeah.
And at the time, there just wasn't much tourism over the Memorial Day weekend. And so the Packers always thinking how to promote bringing people to the area to spend their money, right? So let's put on an event and showcase the mule. Nobody's doing it really anywhere to any degree like they do here with, as you said, the packing events. And now we go into everything from packing to dressage. But so by 1970, they'd organized a little one-day event with a parade. And there you go. 55 years later, here we are.
Yeah, 55 years later, here we are with a week-long event, a parade that in a little town of, what's Bishop, 4,000 people, if you believe the sign 4. On the outside of town, brings 20, 30,000 people to town to watch this giant non-motorized parade. That'll happen on Saturday, the Saturday before Memorial Day. Anybody have any idea this would blossom into the monster that Bob Tallman now calls the national finals of the mule industry?
I don't think so. I think we thought it would be a lot of fun for some local people and hopefully would sell a few hotel rooms. I think there was really a passion to show off the mules, and nobody had any idea it would grow to what it is today and what it has been since, well over 45 years. It's been a pretty darn big event.
Okay, so let me delve into the history a little bit more. As time went by, it became more than just a packing show. Opportunities for mule people to do everything from barrel race to compete in dressage, to ride jumping mules, to ride Western pleasure mules, and in some cases they're all the same mule, developed. How did that come about?
It's really interesting because in this part of the country, mules have always been pretty much an integral part of our world, but really mules in America originated from the Southeast, right? And they were an agrarian-based tool. And so mules were used for teamster type situations, whether it was building the hydroelectric facilities here in our Sierra Mountains or building the Los Angeles Aqueduct or in the mining capacity. Yeah. They were always used as pack animals. But people out here started thinking about riding them years back in the mid 20th century. And a lot of us just fell in love with them. And over time, their breeding has been perfected, I would say. People began to recognize the value of the hybrid animal and using better mares, better jacks. And it's just grown from there. And now, we have a saying at Mule Days, and I have to be careful for our horse lovers out there, which we are too. But we used to say, a mule can do anything a horse can do, just better. But now we kind of want to honor the horses and say a mule can do just about anything a horse can do. So we do everything from, the big teamster events, the farm equipment events, as you said, right on up to the dressage and the jumping and the Western pleasure, the cutting, the reining, the team roping, ranch mule, versatility mule, and of course the packing.
Yeah. Mule Days has been through a lot. I remember... Gosh, Jennifer, I don't even remember the year it was now. You remember the equine herpes virus year several years ago? And it could have really decimated Mule Days. We got through it. And then, of course, everybody survived COVID. And over the last few years, especially in the last year, there's been a real enthusiastic effort made by the Mule Days Board of Directors and the city of Bishop, I think, to make sure that you're on good footing financially. Talk about that.
Happy to. So thanks, Steve. And, you've been right there with us through many of these years. As you said, I think it was 2011, we had a lot of entries drop out because of the equine herpes virus. And we here in the Eastern Sierra just started pulling our mules out of pasture and said, okay, you're going to be a jumping mule this week. So we just did everything we could to put on that show. And it's the same spirit that's gotten us through the last few years. And, every event in the country, I'm sure, has had to deal with that COVID year and the fallout financially. So it set us on a little bit of a rocky path. We had a couple of good years after that. But honestly, I'll just say there's been a number of circumstances, just, high fuel prices. It's been tough for people to get to this kind of a place where we are so isolated. We're 400 miles from the closest metropolitan area. So we really have to bring people in from all over the country, which we do. But those kind of economic things, high rising costs, inflation, and we realized after last year, and I should say we get a lot of people that just come in their RVs to enjoy the show, and that really does help carry the whole event, our RV visitors and spectators, and they just weren't able to make it as much as normal last year. there was a hit there. Increasing costs at our fairgrounds were sort of dependent on one little facility to put on this event. There's not anywhere else to go. And we saw ourselves in a little bit of a tight situation. It was really just kind of a rollover from COVID that just kind of kept us a little bit into our reserves than we would have liked. So we just said, hey, if we're going to continue this show, maybe it's been a good run, maybe that's it, but maybe we should put the word out to our fans, our competitors, our friends, sponsors, and people all over the country. And we sent out our newsletter, we put it on our social media, we did press releases. And Steve, I can't tell you how heartening it has been to see the response from all over the country. We raised over $100,000 in a couple of months, and that has put us on sound footing to go forward. So we're pretty excited about it, honored, and just can't be grateful enough to all the people that stood by us here. So we're ready to go.
You know what I kept thinking through all of this, Jennifer, is last year, tragically, we lost a member of one of the great families that started Mule Days, a gentleman named Bob Tanner, and his dad and Bob Sr. and now Bobby, and sadly he passed away. I did a really good interview that I put on a podcast not long after Mule Days, talking about the 20 Mule team that Bobby Tanner has been a part of for all those years. To not have Mule Days in the year that we lost Bobby would have just, I don't know, it would have, to me, it was, I was so proud of you guys for doing everything you did just because of him and what he and his family have meant through the years. I hope that sounds like it makes sense, but for folks who did not know him, this man and his family were a real rock behind Mule Days for a lot of years.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It shook our world pretty hard, and my husband Lee, as you know, and Bobby had been friends since not even childhood, literally since they were born, and it shook us all. Bobby was one of the few masters of the 20 Mule team in existence, and that's, as you said, it's a sight to behold. And I will just say this: we did a little bit of kind of scraping together some dollars, but it was Bobby's sister and her husband, Suzanne and Harvey, that said, you know what, we're going to help kick off this event, and this fundraising. They donated $10,000, and we held for about 4 weeks. We held a matching campaign to that, and we brought in $30,000 just to match that 10. So then other people started coming on. So that's just the legacy you're talking about, and I think it's an honor to Bobby and certainly to his family. And I will just say, the partnership that was created between the Tanner family and the Death Valley Conservancy to build those borax wagons, the exact replicas of the 1880s borax wagons that are housed here in Bishop. It's a sight to behold, and the Death Valley Conservancy has decided in celebration of Mule Days and in Bobby's honor to bring those wagons out this year, and they'll be on full display with video, professionally produced video, kind of interviewing Bobby on how you drive a 20 Mule team. So it'll be a little bit of an honor to Bobby and a tip of the hat, but it's also to keep those wagons out and visible. This is a part of the West. It's part of our history, and it should not be forgotten.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I've gotten to ride in the 20 Mule team wagons a couple of times, and holy mackerel, what a thrill.
We took that team to Washington, D.C. You remember that. That was something else for the Independence Day parade, just as a century-long or 100 years revisit of the wagons being on a tour of the United States in 1917. So we did it again in 2017. What a sight that was in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I'd imagine. I remember, Jennifer, the first time somebody called me from the Mule Days office and said, Bob Tallman had given him my phone number, because Bob and I and Bob Feist for a lot of years, Bob won't be there this year, but have been the announcers at Mule Days. And I remember the phone call, and my first words were, guys, you need to understand, I really don't know much about mules. They said, it's okay, we'll teach you. You've been educating people about mules for a lot of years. Not just me, but all kinds of the folks who come are not just mule people. They come from all over the world, right?
That's absolutely right. Yeah, it kind of started with mule people and a few locals, but really, I think people have come to appreciate a lot of things about Mule Days. Of course, the mules are at the heart of it. And Steve, you and Bob Bob Feist too have not only captured that essence, but you tell the story as well as anyone. But what I really love is people have been captured by this animal. The humble mule has served America for over 250 years, and people recognize that. They come to celebrate mules. They don't. A lot of people aren't even horse or mule people. They
Yeah.
just love watching what these mules can do and love the celebration of traditional values of the Western value, the Western way of life, and the beautiful outdoors we have right here. And that's what draws people. You can't beat it.
Who's that right behind you, Jennifer, over your right shoulder?
Oh, that's Patty. She's
Oh.
getting ready for Mule Days.
Got it. I've got to find some pictures to share with this, and you've heard me tell this story dozens of times, Jennifer. So forgive the repeat. The very first year I came to Mule Days, the very first memory that I have when I knew that I was going to fall in love with Mule Days is Lee and Jennifer Roeser have a team of black mules. I forget how many there are, 10, 12, 15. Maybe it depends on the year. And
We've had 21.
Yeah. They outfit each one of them with a pack and a couple of American flags, and with Jennifer riding point just to make sure everybody stays in line, Lee comes out and leads them, and they circle in the middle of the arena, and it is one of the most beautiful sights you will ever see in your life. You've been surrounded by these animals your whole life, I think, aren't you?
Sure have, yeah.
Tell me about that team of mules and where that all got started from.
Oh, I'd love to, Steve. So as you've mentioned early on, Mule Days is held over Memorial Day weekend. And a lot of times we get caught up as Americans in the idea, it's a 3-day weekend, barbecues, let's go have some fun at the lake or whatever. And even Mule Days had gotten pretty focused on, the event and sales in town, and the businesses were cheering up. And we realized that, hey, wait a minute, we ought never forget the reason we're here and why we're able to celebrate, right? Is to honor those who've fallen. And we just felt, and my husband, really credit to him, just felt we needed to bring that back because this is Memorial Day weekend. We needed to honor those who made our freedoms possible, and in particular, those who have fallen in defense of our country. And I'll tell you, it's just grown with a groundswell. People come from all over to watch that string. We've taken them to a number of rodeos. People have seen them and said, wow, can you bring these mules here and just honor America? And that's really what it's all about. Is just remembering the freedoms we have, and don't ever forget who bought them for us.
Yeah. Tell me, before I let you go, Jennifer, 2 final questions. Tell me about the group behind the scenes that organizes Mule Days. Tallman and I deal with rodeo committees all over the country, and we see all the hard work that so many volunteers put in. You folks are no different from that standpoint.
Absolutely. It started out, as you mentioned, with a hardy group of packers just volunteering to bring this all together. And over the years, they'd get their employees involved and say, part of your summer job is helping put on Mule Days. People started getting enthusiastic back in the 70s. Businesses joined in. We have an all-volunteer executive committee, all volunteer, 1 year-round paid employee, and then a couple of seasonal employees that come on in about February. But really, it's the volunteers that make it work. So we've had as many as 500 or 600 volunteers that make Mule Days happen. It's a monstrous event to bring them all together and organize them because, as we've been saying, it's not just a show. We have a concert, we have dances, we have barbecues, we have a parade, we have clinics, we have vendors, we have all kinds of things going on. And I just want to give a quick shout out to the idea that I think maybe a lot of event organizers and rodeo committees also deal with, and that's the fact that people start to age out. And heck, I'm getting old. Anyway, we started, and again, it was Bob Tanner, myself, Dr. Craig London, and a number of committee members that said we need to start making sure that our youth stick with us. And I can tell you that over the last 10, 12 years of that concerted effort, we have right now up at the fairgrounds dozens and dozens of kids that have taken the week off school. Sorry, teachers. But they're out there. They're working in the RV, setting up RV land. They're making packets for the contestants. They're working and cleaning things at the fairgrounds. But our youth programs and our collegiate packing program have exploded. We have youth kids participating in events from regular mule shows, English pleasure, Western pleasure, jumping right into the packing events. We have dozens and dozens and dozens of kids participating in these events. The collegiate program has boomed. We actually have well over a dozen collegiate teams, which are kids from colleges all over the state who get some mules from our packers here and they can participate. And see, what I love about that is these kids aren't just here for participation. They want to help. They roll up their sleeves. They help set up corrals. They help clean up the grounds. They do all kinds of things. They help with security. But more importantly, not only are they learning these skills and traditions, they're falling in love with the Western way of life. And the mule's leading them here. So you got to love it.
Yeah, absolutely. You hooked me up with a lady named Lonnie Langdon the other day for an interview we did on Western Sports Roundup on the Cowboy Channel. And she is a teacher and the interscholastic pack team coach at Reedley College. She is also a packer herself. And it was really fun to hear her talk about the way that so many young men and women are developing their interest in our Western lifestyle. And she's helping to guide that. Rick and Lou Moore Jacobson at Cal Poly doing the same thing. I think it's a great story. I think the country's hungry for the kind of product we're selling right now. That's a whole nother show. But I think it's a great story to see how many kids are getting involved in Mule Days now.
Absolutely agree with you. And it's a whole other story, but it's what we need in this country, to be honest.
It all starts on Tuesday. The first 3 days have a little bit of a horse show feel to them. One day is jumping, one day is dressage, one day is Western, one day is English, one day is but there's a lot of fun that is to be had on those days. And then Friday, two performances plus a parade on Saturday, and Sunday before Memorial Day, we'll wrap it up. You can go to muledays.org and get all the information. Jennifer, what do you, when you're sitting on an airplane and somebody sits down next to you and says, hey, tell me what you do, and you eventually steer the conversation around to Mule Days, what do you tell those people, especially if they've never been to Mule Days before?
Steve, you cut out. What was the last part? What do you tell people?
Well, yeah, what do you tell, if you're talking to somebody who's never been to Mule Days before, what do you tell them about? I've been there for 20, 25 years. I'm still not great at explaining exactly what it is we do in Bishop, California for a week with these mules.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I tell them you would never believe what a mule can do. And I always have to explain what a mule is. So, right? A hybrid cross between a male donkey and a female horse. So once you do that, then the interest is always piqued. And then I tell them a little bit about packing. Have you ever heard about packing and going into the high country where you can't drive a car? You can only get there on foot or on a mule. And when you just drop a little bit of that, they go, oh, interesting. And then you just close it with, and you've never seen anything as beautiful as these Eastern Sierra Mountains. Yeah. So that's always the clincher. Yeah,
and that is absolutely the truth, folks. Jennifer, I always appreciate your time. I cannot wait to see you and Lee and the entire crew in just a couple of days in Bishop, California. Muledays.org if you'd like to know more. There's a whole lot of social media. Jennifer Roeser, thank you as always for your time, my friend, and we will see you very, very soon.
Thank you, Steve. We're so grateful to you and just can't wait to see you. God bless you.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
Take care.
That's Jennifer Roeser from Bishop, California, where the Mule Days celebration is getting underway, May 20th through the 22nd, muledays.org. Thank you to the folks that bring you the Steve Kenyon podcast, Wrangler, Resist All, the Justin Boot Company, M2 Ranch Jerky, along with the Cubit Hay Company, of course, Equinity, teamequinity.com, the Grandview at Las Vegas, the place we stayed during the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo, to the Gooding Pro Rodeo, celebrating its 100th year this year, the Gooding County Fair, to our friends at Next Gen Rodeo, and, of course, to the Cowboy Channel. And thanks to you for listening. Please like and subscribe to our social media sites. We'll come to you from Bishop, California next week. God bless everybody. Thanks for listening. This is the Steve Kenyon Podcast.